Could I ask you all for a favor and move a little bit closer here in? I mean, we are talking about a very important topic, and I'm very much looking forward, and I have the honor and privilege to moderate this theme, but we are in an awfully big room, and I would like to increase the family feeling here, so if I could ask everybody to be so bold and courageous to come and occupy the first 5 rows. I promise you can still leave early or go to the bathroom in between if you absolutely need to. We will not record it or put any restrictions on your moves. And I've been given assurances that none of our speakers bites, so you're not risking your lives. They are generally very friendly people. I've known them for a very long time. Thank you for doing this, I think, creating a little bit of a tighter family feeling here. So, I hope you're surviving your first full day at the UN World Data Forum. I understand there are lots of discussions going on, and of course the sessions at the end of the day suffer a little bit from that, in that we are a bit delayed, but that's fine. I hope you still have energy and stamina for a very important topic. We are going to talk here about the use of administrative data for statistics. If that's not what you wanted, then you're in the wrong session. And my name is Stefan Schweinfest. I'm the director of the UN Statistics Division. And I have the honor of moderating this panel. We are still waiting for one of our speakers and hoping that she's stuck in data traffic somewhere. And but I'm sure Ola will join us soon. But I think we will start nonetheless. Thank you for coming to this late panel. This is an important topic. I mean, I must say, I think I'm moderating very few sessions, but this is one that is dear to my heart, and I have happily accepted the invitation by the organizers to be the moderator. Administrative data are an important source for official statistics, probably what we all know, undervalued and underused, and great potential. I think also I'm looking at developing countries to increase and improve our information bases. So if you look at the organizers of this session, it's Denmark, Finland, Norway, and Sweden. Now there's a little geographical quiz coming. What do all these countries have in common? No, they're not in the South Pacific. But they do all have strong administrative records, so I think I'm very grateful for this group of countries taking the lead and having none else than Jørgen Elmeskov, the Director General of Statistics Denmark, to give the keynote speech to lead us into this universe. And now we are complete at the head table. Welcome, Ola. And I'm very much looking forward to this. I'm normally supposed to do perhaps a short bio, and I thought, let me check the administrative records of these people, and I was searching for arrest warrants and tax arrears, but I didn't find too much, so I think I'll stop right here and just announce the formal current title and invite Jørgen as the Director General of Statistics Denmark and a little bit the super guru of administrative data, because I've heard him several times talk on that topic, to give us the keynote speech. Thank you.
Thank you. With that introduction, I can only disappoint. Anyway, good afternoon, everybody, and on behalf of the organizers, welcome to you all. As Stefan has said, the organizers are the 4 mainland statistical offices in the Nordic region. let me also thank Stefan for being willing to accept the role as moderator, and Lisa and Ola for being willing to participate in the panel. I should say this is a bit of unknown territory for me. I'm doing this presentation with only one slide. We'll see whether it works, but obviously I have to make rather judicious use of the single slide I have for maximum effect. Anyway, the task to monitor the post or the 2030 agenda is something that is both a challenge and an opportunity for statistical officers. We've heard that numerous times throughout today, beginning with Undersecretary Wu. I believe he was the first one to say so this morning. And I think the challenge part is actually very easy for all to see. So I'll just go briefly through some 5 constituent parts of the challenge. First, of course, the scope of the agenda is vast, and accordingly, the needs for data to monitor it are correspondingly vast. Secondly, we want to monitor progress in a way which is as comparable as possible across countries, yet the countries have widely different starting points in terms of statistical capacity. Third, and just to make things even more difficult, the data revolution, it keeps unfolding, and opportunities for data collection, they keep expanding. And at the same time, obtaining access to and using data increasingly requires joint approaches involving statistical officers and data owners. Fourth, a specific but very key feature of the new agenda is the pledge to leave no one behind. Monitoring that requires that data are granular so as to capture how implementation of the agenda affects everyone, in particular the most vulnerable. And fifth, just to bring us down to earth in case we were a bit elevated, the resources of statistical officers are constrained, and frankly, I do not see any easing of those resource pressures anytime soon. That was the challenge part, so that was quickly done. I'm not going to be equally quick on the opportunity part. I think above all, the need to monitor the agenda is a huge opportunity to boost statistical capacity building. That goes not least for capacity to exploit different data sources. This World Data Forum addresses a multitude of data sources that may address the challenges that I just mentioned. And I will spend more or less the rest of my time here arguing that greater use of administrative data holds great promise in dealing with these data challenges. Basically, the message, and if all you want is the central message, it comes here, and you can leave if you do so quietly. Basically, the central message is that if we can use the 2030 agenda to engineer greater use of administrative data in statistics production, this could be one of the lasting legacies of the agenda. This is because administrative data in general are very helpful for producing statistics. So, the slide. I cheated. It may be one slide, but it comes in 4 parts. So, The use of administrative data to monitor the 2030 agenda can actually kill two birds with one stone. It both addresses many of the data needs for the SDG follow-up, and via well-targeted capacity building significantly contributes to improvement of national statistical capacity. Now, I've spoken for some time now, and perhaps I should just briefly define what I'm talking about. Administrative data. It's always good to know what we're talking about. And basically, you can say that administrative data are data that are collected by public authorities for administrative purposes. That means that they have another legal basis than gathering statistics. Here we talk, for example, about data from tax registers, population registers, health registers, pension registers, unemployment benefit registers, what have you. Clearly, the main purpose of these registers is to support administrative practices in each of the relevant areas. The production of statistics based on these administrative registers really is a byproduct of having established them for administrative purposes. So, one click further. Let me mention 5 advantages of basing statistics on administrative data. One of the main advantages is low costs. The data are collected anyhow for administrative use, so it's all about making use of them for statistics. To give you an example, we no longer in Denmark have a census, but once a year we use our registers to take stock of the population and do population projections. The cost to us at Statistics Denmark is approximately 2 man-years. Every 10 years, we then have to put in an additional man-year to ensure that reporting in the framework of the EU census is done appropriately. But that's only for getting the reporting right. So 2 man-years on a steady state basis and an additional man-year every 10 years. Second, on the advantage side, a crucial advantage of statistics based on administrative data is that they in principle provide total coverage. So, by using registers, we can produce more detailed statistics than by using sample surveys. For instance, statistics for small areas and for very detailed population segments. This is, of course, a very strong argument for the use of administrative data, given the leaving no one behind commitment of the agenda. Thirdly, on the advantage side, running an administrative register is a never-ending story. New data will be reported continuously. Of course, in the first place, just to support the administrative processes. But, of course, statistics will benefit as well. Fourthly, anonymized data sets based on administrative records are a fantastic source for research and for evidence-based policymaking. At Statistics Denmark, one of our important activities is to furnish researchers and ministries with access to these data, of course in a way that does not allow identification. Some of you may remember that the late Dale Mortensen got the Nobel Prize in Economics, I think together with Chris Pissarides back in 2010. And that was, of course, for his career-long work. But I think that the fact that the empirical research which he did using our data featured so prominently meant that we can claim that we contributed at least a little bit to his Nobel Prize. Nice try, isn't it? Finally, and I would say sometimes overlooked, administrative data often come with a geospatial dimension. Of course, an administrative one, like the municipality or region or whatever. But that, again, is something which is crucial in the context of leaving no one behind. Now, the use of administrative data hinges on a number of preconditions being met. I'll go through some and discuss them. Some of them are indeed hard preconditions. Others, I will argue, are not. The first, and that is a hard one, is that you need appropriate legislation as the foundation for the use of administrative data for statistical purposes. Legislation should allow for the reuse of administrative data and should give the right to statistical offices to receive such data free of charge. Second, it's also very helpful, close to necessary, for legislation to grant the statistical office a right to be heard when changes are made to administrative registers. There's of course always a risk that legislation or administrative practices in some specific area can change. The statistical use of data can become a hostage to such changes unless there's a possibility to make the statistical case in shaping the administrative registers. Accidents can still happen. For example, we at Statistics Denmark are currently in a situation where access to administrative data on health has been strongly limited due to a newly adopted act, which I think you can say was sort of a late night parliamentary accident. I don't think we were really being targeted, but these things can happen. Thirdly, a system of unique identifiers, personal IDs, for example, enterprise IDs, is very helpful in linking data from different registers, but they are not a strictly necessary condition. In Denmark, we've had unique identifiers for individuals for more than 50 years, and we also have them for enterprises and for dwellings. So we can, at any point, link an individual to the enterprise in which he or she works and to the dwelling in which he or she lives. And of course, we can also follow them over time, given the unique identifiers. But even without unique identifiers, specific statistics can still use data from individual registers, such as education, population, or unemployment, that are then not linked to each other. Fourthly, cooperation among and with the administrative authorities that are the sources of data, that's crucial. I think all bureaucrats, and let me confess I'm one, they know that having a legal mandate can be a necessary condition for obtaining what you want. In this case, the access to administrative registers, but there can be countless practical hindrances unless there is a spirit of collaboration and goodwill. And this is not just about obtaining data. There will often be questions of a practical nature and of interpretation that will need to be answered by those who collected the data in the first place. So achieving cooperation is very important, and it may hinge on some degree of political support. Fifth, and at a much deeper level, the establishment of administrative registers and their use in statistics requires public approval. And I think it's clear that different societies have different degrees of concern about privacy and levels of trust in public authorities. You know, in Denmark, we sort of brought up loving the central government, which is perhaps at an extreme of the situation across countries. But clearly, countries with a high level of trust between government and citizens find it easier to establish administrative registers and to use unique identifiers and to use the data for statistics, which may be why the Nordic countries were forerunners in this field. Now, preserving such trust is something that's crucial and requires that one has to be extremely protective of the rich information that is in the registers, and that of course is something that may involve some costs. Sixth and final, let me add what I think is not a precondition, but is sometimes referred to as such. Building up administrative registers and relying on them for statistical purposes actually does not require a high level of IT sophistication. Our system in Denmark was basically built up in the late 1960s and the 1970s. The kind of enormous mainframe computers we had back then, I don't know whether they had as much computing power as you have in your private car today, probably not. And in any case, there was no such thing as the internet. It only arrived 20 to 30 years later. So you don't need hugely sophisticated IT. So you'll be relieved that I've now come to the last of my 4 statements. About getting started, I'll try and get a bit more practical. How does one get started on using administrative registers? I think the process has got to be one of gradualism. At least that certainly was the case for us. Getting to where we are now has taken for 50 years or something like that. Perhaps others can move faster, also drawing advantage of the experience we and others have gained. Anyway, I'll mention 3 steps. A first step obviously has to be to get the legal and institutional framework established and to establish the necessary understanding and capacity. Some advocacy work may be needed to have the legal setup put in place and to achieve buy-in from the register owners. Second step, then it makes sense to begin with, say, one or a few statistics that do not involve any linking across administrative data sets. This set of statistics can then be gradually expanded. There will obviously be a number of technical issues that have to be addressed in each instance. And finally, thirdly, and possibly overlapping with the second step, one can then link data across registers. That, of course, vastly expands the sophistication of the statistics that can be produced. And unique identifiers obviously facilitate linking, but less extensive and perhaps more fragile linking can take place through other means. I think the 3 steps illustrate that the use of administrative data is not something that's relevant only for countries with quote-unquote advanced statistical systems. A large number of countries would have scope to use administrative data for at least some statistics. I think what is really required is boldness from both the statistical side and the political side. But if we're not bold now, when faced with the challenges posed by Agenda 2030, when will we ever be bold? The political call to leave no one behind begs for monitoring through administrative data with their high degree of granularity. In my view, there's both a demand and an opportunity, and I think such opportunities are rare and should be seized. So with that, thank you very much.
Thank you very much to our Nobel Prize winner, Jürgen, for these elaborate remarks. I know how that feels a little bit. When the UN Secretariat won the Nobel Prize with Kofi Annan, I was going around telling people I won 1/20,000th of a Nobel Prize. I didn't do my full job at the beginning when I introduced this session. There were 2 important pieces of information I should have given you. Number 1 is simply how we structure this session. Jürgen led us into this universe with his keynote address, and then we will have a panel debate with Lisa and Ola, which I will initiate in a minute. And I'm also happy to announce that we want to manage this in such a way that there will be time for interactive debate. So if you have any questions popping up in your mind, hold on to those, because we should have time to do this. And also, if this really whets your appetite and you leave the room with a hunger for more discussions on administrative records and their role, this is the first of a sequence of three sessions that will look at these topics. So you can continue tomorrow morning at 10:45 and on Wednesday morning at 10:45, where there are sessions that continue to expand on these things. Okay, so now we are at the point where I would invite Lisa to go first and perhaps, share her experiences and visions for a wider use of administrative records in the production of statistics in her country, in the Philippines. Lisa is the Director General of the Philippine Statistical Authority, but much more importantly, she is a wonderful and very patient human being who has done the impossible task of co-chairing our interagency and expert group on SDG indicators for the last year and a half, which meant she didn't probably know that when she signed up for that job, that she was not having any private life anymore, and especially in the evenings, because when we make phone calls from New York to Manila, it's usually her bedtime, and we are molesting her, and I don't find another more elegant word, with indicator questions. And despite all of this, she is still talking to me and sometimes calls me a friend. So that only makes my point that she is a wonderful and patient human being, apart from being, of course, a very competent Director General of the Philippine Statistical Authority. And in this capacity, I call upon you now to share your experiences. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stefan. You never fail to make me laugh. And I really appreciate your kind words. Now, in the Philippines, we were really worried about the level of ambition of the SDGs. And so we started mapping available information to monitor SDGs, starting with the global indicators. And we found out that only 33% of information that we already have and we regularly generate come from the Philippine Statistics Authority. 33% from censuses and surveys. 60% come from administrative data. So these are the data that come from the different ministries, education, health, justice, the police, etc. 7% will come from other information, and these are mainly private sector data, which we request for when we compile national accounts. So this really emphasizes that in the Philippines, if we want to work with what is already there, we should look at administrative data and enhance it, do more quality checks, and that's what we're doing now. So we've started discussing with various levels of various administrative levels in the country, because the national level system is really already very solid. So in the Philippines, we have 17 subnational regions, we have 81 provinces, and we have 1,600 cities and municipalities. So we've started looking at the data availability at the Philippine regional level, and we're happy about it. We already have 17 regional statistics committees in place, composed of the different agencies in the region, different ministries in the region, and this regional statistics committee is headed by the regional planning director and co-chaired by the statistics office director. We don't have such a structure in the provincial and municipal level, so we're looking at pilot provinces to be able to develop data ecosystems, the proper data architecture. And as we go down the different administrative levels, we will really have to rely more and more on administrative data. We actually have been generating also small area estimates for poverty. So we've engaged academia to help us with these robust methodologies that we can use. So that's where recognition of the importance of administrative data in the Philippines is. What is very good about the Philippines is that I am also the Civil Registrar General. Yeah. So I have access to the civil registration database, which we have already digitized, and we already have 161 million digital records of our citizens, births, deaths, marriages, and other legal instruments. We are also the repository of like a default national ID system. The Philippines doesn't have a national ID. But we have what I call a default one, because we have a unified multipurpose ID issued to all citizens enrolled in our 2 social security and pension agencies. So it's about 3 million Filipinos in our social security system. So we are also the repository. And these names are linked to the birth registration number. We have not yet exploited that for censuses. My staff is already looking into the use of multiple registers for the next census of population and housing, but I think we will have to do a combination. We cannot get away from face-to-face interviews. The Philippines in the last in last year's census is 100.98 million people strong. So we are a population of 101 million approximately. We are discussing data ecosystem, develop data ecosystem. So we want to enhance the surveys and censuses, enhance the administrative data, exploit the registers, but we want to also talk more to our private sector and explore the use of big data, especially down provincial and municipal level. This will really, as Jürgen says, will address the leaving no one behind and timeliness and cost. I am very happy that the Philippine Statistics Law was signed in 2013 and it has the appropriate legal frameworks that Jürgen mentioned, where the PSA has the mandate to collect data, including administrative data from agencies. And we don't have a problem really with getting data from them because we have existing interagency committees where we discuss frameworks, methods of data collection, and they provide the data to the PSA. What we are now doing is discussing financing. So we hired a consultant through the World Bank to do a medium-term expenditure framework for us. So we should have a costing of a long-term costing of the financing for the statistics. And we hope that the government will provide for us. So far, the government has been providing us. We grabbed the opportunity that we were a new agency. So when we were created in 2013, we went to the planning ministry and said, you created us, you give us the proper budget. So all the core censuses and surveys are fully funded by government, and we have a number of development projects that they are also funding. So we just have to show that we're giving them the data that they need. We still have a lot of challenges, especially retaining good people. It's really the human resource which is a challenge. But in the Philippines, we also have a very good environment because we have about 19 universities that offer statistics programs, including applied mathematics. And we have 2 universities offering PhD in statistics. And so we have the academia that supports us. We have a very strong society, professional society. We have 2 that help us. We have a professional society of statisticians and a professional society of demographers. So the elements are there, but still, it's a big challenge to put our act together. But administrative data is what we are pushing for. Did a lot of notes from what Jürgen stated, so I'm learning a lot from this as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lisa, and that's exactly the spirit. I mean, I can see you can organize a World Data Forum just in the Philippines by and perhaps that's not such a bad idea that we now also have national data fora. It's my pleasure now to introduce the second panelist who will share her experience and visions, and none other than Ola Awad, the president of the Palestinian Central Bureau for Statistics. But Ola has, as we all know, been very active far beyond her own shores. I mean, and she's been taking on a leading role in the region. I think you are still the chair of the ESCWA committee for statistics, and far beyond the region, even to the IAOS, where we have also been benefiting from your leadership. So, I mean, you have proven your credentials as an international statistician. So, I mean, in your dual function here as the national president of the Palestinian Central Bureau of Statistics and a versed international statistician, I'm now inviting you to share your experiences and visions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Stefan, and thank you for inviting me. Although that as a National Statistical Office experience, maybe it's not one of the best experiences, because I liked what Jürgen mentioned when he talked about Rome wasn't built in a day. I just loved it. Yes, and I can talk about, yes, talking about also our national experience, about Palestine experience. Yes, it will not build in a day. But still, we have some step-wise approaches, and I may talk about really so far. How I'm going to work on that? Yeah. Yes. So what are actually the steps that has been already taken place. We have, as you may notice, that when we talk first about the Sustainable Development Goals, and before talking about the Sustainable Development Goals, the administrative data and admin registers are one of the main components of any national statistical system. And when we had now the Sustainable Development Goals, it just brings more weight on our shoulders, really to focus more and develop the admin data and admin registers. What is the main the progress made so far from our experience, and which helped us as real tools that it might actually be part of our infrastructure? I'm sorry about that. First, it's just working by itself. Why is that? What actually the progress made, setting up a legal framework of using the admin data, and we here talk about the statistical law, establishing communication channels with the admin data producers, and that's really a core issue. And as Lisa mentioned, mapping the required indicators from the, for statistical use and for statistical purpose from the admin data, because also, as Jorgen mentioned, that when we talk about admin data, it's not all the indicators that is produced by the admin data can be of statistical use, because the main aim of the admin data, which is collected by the public authority, is for administrative purpose, but how we can get use of it. And one of the best tools that can be used is just identifying and defining how the cooperation and the collaboration between the NSOs and the admin producers, and define actually what is the task and the division of task, and can be assigned by a memorandum of understanding with the admin data producers. Also implementing the capacity building program for the staff of admin data producers by adopting methodologies and data collection techniques, unifying the definitions and concepts, standardizing the forms, templates for data collection, automating the data collection tools, and bringing also in the staff of admin data producers in the technical activities of the statistical system. Lisa mentioned about mapping the SDGs indicators, and I may say, before I start talking about the mapping of the SDGs indicators in Palestine, I may start that PCBS was established in 1994 after Oslo Agreement, and before 1994 there was no actually statistical office in Palestine for the Palestinians. So in 1994, when we started working, there was no single admin data that it can be used, because within the establishment of the statistical offices, also some other national institutions and ministries were on the process of development. We succeeded by 2004 after we completed also 2 population housing and establishment census, one in 1997 and the other one in 2007. We succeeded to work and to develop our admin data. In 2004, we did an exercise with the statistical division in ASQA, and we were able to assess the use of our admin data, and it was almost around 26% from the whole indicators that we were working on. And now in the current situation, we are talking on 2016, from the whole indicators that we are actually having, we have around 46% actually from the admin data. But now SDGs came on board. We have around 230 indicators, 169 targets, and with 17 sustainable development goals. So we do have some really more hard work to do. So what we did exactly, as Lisa mentioned, we did a mapping a process on these indicators, the 230 indicators. We found that mainly we have 115 indicators, which is almost 50% of the total indicators come from the admin data. And we have around 85 indicators come from surveys, which consist of 37% from the total indicators. And we have around 13% comes from other sources rather than the admin data. So there was actually a need first, as we mentioned even in the morning, the role of the National Statistical Office in restructuring and working on the reframing of the work inside the NSO on the post agenda. So we started, I want to just speak at least part of the success examples that we had, that we started working on the admin data, and I'm really now say that we are really very proud that all the education indicators and all the health indicators now come from the Ministry of Health on the health indicators, and on the education comes from the Ministry of Education and Higher Education. But how we started, I started with actually with the same tools I just mentioned at the beginning. First, I do have the law, I defined our roles, we defined what actually what is needed, what is the capacity building that is needed, and then we just move forward and we work together on mutual reports, and now they are the one, according to the really international standards and within a very high quality, that we are actually getting all the education indicators and all the health indicators in Palestine from the Ministry of Health and from Ministry of Education and Higher Education. But did we actually end it? No, we do have really a lot to work on that, especially us, the developing countries. We still need to consider the consistency in the methodologies and statistical definitions, concepts based on the international recommendations and standards. The statistical capacities in admin data sources with the process of producing statistical data, just to make sure that we are really they are consistent and according to our international standards checklist, that they can be part of the official statistics. The issue that it's a challenge when we talk about the timeliness of the admin data flow, and this actually happened to us when we joined the SDDS. We face an issue of the lack of timeliness of the admin data flow, and this has to be worked on, and the effectiveness of the statistical units from other perspective. Strength, yes, we have a lot of strong issues to consider, and we have a lot of opportunities. The good thing that we have an existing legal framework for admin data as a main source of the national statistical system. The strong part that there's a partnership, but there's a need for enhancing really a real partnership and be part of the whole process. In that perspective, especially when we talk about our main players in the development of the national statistical system. Having a strong platforms between the PCBS and the statistical and the stakeholders, I can give, and it's not actually limited to this, but I may say that having an advisory council headed by the Prime Minister, it's actually a strong main tool for us to have a strong platform between us and the policymakers and our stakeholders. So many tools that has been used within the academia, universities, research centers, and developing what we call it a dialogue between the users, producers, and having so many different MOUs being signed and worked on between the NSO, the PCBS, and different stakeholders, which really give so many developments in the development of admin data and administrative registers. What is the way forward? We have so many issues to work on. First, inside the NSO, for example, talking about the GSPPM, the Generic Statistics Business Process Model for all statistical process, including the admin data, to be part of our process project cycle process, working closely with admin data sources to promote the ownership, and that's really important. It's not the NSO is the only player in the field. We are really a main player, but we have so many players in the development of our national statistical system. Through the participatory process, focus more on unifying the methodologies and used concept, and this is part of the gap that we have when we talk about admin data, bringing them as part of our official statistics. And the most important thing is also the division of work on SDGs to be provided under the responsibility of National Statistical System, and defining the main priorities and implementing it under the responsibility of our governments. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for this presentation, for these presentations. And without further ado, we have about 30 minutes, which is a wonderful time frame for some interactive dialogue. And for once, I get the privilege of sitting at the table and I don't have to answer any difficult questions. I can just forward them to my very competent panelists here. So, who is going to break the ice? I think there is a microphone. Is there a microphone? There is of course, there's always. Perhaps you would have to come down here a little bit, because I think many of the questions, many of the people are down here. Very simple. So we have a question over there. Let's start with 3 questions and then perhaps do a round of answers and then another 3, hopefully. Okay, let's start over there.
Thank you. My name is Baye Brahima. I'm from Côte d'Ivoire. Thanks to the panelists and the moderator. My country, Côte d'Ivoire, has a rich and long experience in statistics producing from administrative source in the context of post-crisis from 2010 to 2015. The next time, I'll try to share our experience with all. But today, I have 2 questions. As we know, for statistics producing, we use 2 sources. Data direct collecting is the first source by census or service, and the second source is what we are talking about now, administrative source. In my country, the administrative source is concerned the public and private administration. What is about this in your country? When we are speaking about administrative source, is it public or private source? The second question is about the big data. In my country, in our last law, statistical law, we consider the big data like the administrative source. What is about this question in your country? Thank you.
Perhaps we can pass the microphone just behind, and then here in the front, the next question.
Thank you very much. My name is Yusuf. I am from Azerbaijan. I have one question about the implementation of GSPPM for administrative data. I heard about that Ms. Ola from Statistical Palestine mentioned that future plan implementation of GSPPM. But in our country also, we also implement for official statistics, for only official statistics, which we see all process of GSPPM. But what do you think about it? And also difficulty implementation of GSPPM, because implementation of GSPPM for administrative data not only depending from statistical office, because other actors should be, according to legislation, should be implements GSPPM. Thank you.
Thank you. And there was one question down here in the 5th row.
Thank you very much. Gabriel Quiroz, International Monetary Fund. First of all, thank you very much for the idea of organizing this, this extremely important session on a topic which I believe needs to be given a big impulse in the statistical community. So thank you very much also for the excellent presentations and discussion. Let me start with one comment. There has been a lot of focus in administrative data and SDGs. Administrative data as a data source for SDGs. Coming from the IMF, which we think more closely to macroeconomic and financial statistics rather than the SDGs, although we contribute as an institutions to the SDGs, so we contribute to some specific SDGs. I think administrative data are not only for SDGs. That's the clarification I would like to make very clear. Administrative data are an essential potential data source for macroeconomic and financial statistics. I think this is very important that we keep this in mind. Then I don't need to just to say why I'm so convinced personally, and I think in institutions we are developing some thoughts about this topic. I don't need to explain because Jorgen has been very clear, has mentioned all the benefits and the relatively low cost. But of course, there is a huge barrier, which is the legal barrier, the access of the statistical compilers to the administrative data, which actually I think, let me here say a little bit to be straight, I think is something very surprising because statistical offices are one government agency. Why this government agency doesn't have access to the data which are available in other government agencies? For me, this is a question. So then it's a question to you, the 3 or the 4 of you there at the table asking, what are we not doing well? What, if we are so convinced and the benefits are so clear, what in our communication is not being done totally well from the statistical community to the political forces, and because I think there is an element of political will and good governance at the country level. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Let's stop after the... I saw a few more hands, which is good. We will have time also for a second round, but perhaps we stop here and just give the panelists an opportunity to answer, and perhaps you pick the questions. I mean, there's some questions that were more specific for specific panelists, but I trust you will sort this out. I give Jürgen the floor.
Thank you. Let me just focus on 2 of the questions, which were the ones I heard most clearly. There was the question from the gentleman from the Côte d'Ivoire who asked what were the sources for the administrative data. In our case, clearly the administrative data predominantly come from public sources. And if they do not come from public sources, then they come as a result of a legal mandate. The gentleman from the fund asked, why are we doing so badly? Since this is such a brilliant idea, why isn't everybody doing it? I think we have to recognize that there are some political factors there that one needs to work with. One thing is that countries have very different histories, and countries with a history of an exploitative government may have hesitancy about concentrating data in one place, but it may be more politically acceptable to have data dispersed through the public sector. Secondly, I think it's also, and this is again speculating in the political field, which is not really my speciality, but I think one has to recognize that data, in some respects, are also power, and therefore I think there has to be some general political impetus at a national, central national level to boost the access to the individual administrative registers, because I think administrative register owners by themselves will not have any incentives to engage in this.
Thank you. Lisa, you wanted to respond?
What are we not doing well? I guess we need to champion more. I mean the Statistics Office needs to champion more the needs of agencies or ministries that generate administrative data. For example, they are not provided the appropriate technology to be able to process the administrative data. Some of them are still paper, and they remain to be paper. And so the Statistics Office has also to think of the support that these agencies need. And this is where I mentioned earlier, the medium-term expenditure framework that we are doing is really for the whole national statistical system, so that we know which agency needs what funding for modernization. Of course, I mentioned it earlier, the people who generate the data don't have a clear understanding of how these data can go for statistics use and for eventual policy making. So there is still a need to make these technical people understand where and how important the work they do is. So it's a lot of advocacy, not just technical capacity building.
Thank you. And Ola, I'm sure you want to respond to the GSBPM question.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, the GSBPM, it's really, from our experience, developing it to the admin data, it was really very crucial. When we count on the admin data as part of our official statistics. So we're not talking about that, as I said, that the admin data and registers are one of main components in the development of national statistical systems. So that's why we said including having the admin data within the GSBPM is crucial. And for whom? For the one who's actually generating the data, producing the admin data. So it's really important to work on that. It's really important to put it as part of the GSBPM and work with the other producers of admin data on making sure that they actually work within the GSBPM to make sure that this is the checklist that we can make sure that these admin data is according to the standards within high quality and can be part of the official statistics. And this can be done only within, as we mentioned, the participatory approach and real partnership between the NSO and our other producers, which we consider them our main partners. For the question of the IMF about the data, we didn't talk only about the SDGs. We were talking before on all the data, and as I mentioned from our mapping at the early one, we started with 0% depending on admin data, and then we developed our work on the data, and by 2004, we depend on the about 26% from the whole indicators on admin data. And by 2016, they were around 46%. But when we map it for the SDG indicators, from the admin data, which is still not all of them are actually available, but the indicators that depend on the admin data was around 37%. The last question, what we are not doing well, I think there's a real need on advocacy. Advocacy between us and SO and our main partners. That's actually the thing that we're not really doing well, to work on a real participatory approach and real partnership. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And let's go right away into a second round of questions. I see 1, 2. Scanning the horizons, just not to leave anybody behind. 3. I think let's try this then. The microphone stays in this general neighborhood this time. Please introduce yourself.
Bill Anderson from Development Initiatives. Could I pose a provocative response to the issue of why this great idea is not picked up more? And that's that sustainable development and sustainable data aren't the same thing, and that there is a paradox in the 2030 agenda in that the data that is needed needs to be in place by 2020. And administrative data, civil registration, there are a whole lot of countries where they've got a lot of investment to do in long-term systems, and that cannot be in place by 2020. Therefore, we continue to invest in the elastoplast of household surveys at the expense of administrative data.
Okay, thank you. Now this is good. That was not a question, but a statement. But I'm sure others will react to that.
Is on. Hi, this is Jen Park from the United States. In the United States, we are, of course, using administrative data, but looking for ways to further exploit it. One limitation we've observed, at least in the United States, is that it's really the most vulnerable portions of the society for which we do not have good coverage or well represented in administrative data records. So particularly thinking about the use of administrative data for the purposes of SDGs and making sure that we can describe outcomes for all segments of the population. I wonder if the panelists have some thoughts about how to address potential coverage issues in the use of administrative data. Thank you.
Thank you, Madame Park.
Yeah, I have a question about Arnaldo Cruz from Puerto Rico. As far as the operational legal approach of having the administrative agencies producing statistics and disseminating statistics, and maybe the NSO validating methodology and quality versus the NSO actually taking the data and producing the statistics in an integrated way and disseminating the statistics in a integrated way is, I mean, I guess what you have seen in different countries, whether one approach works better than the other, and what are the I guess cost of benefits of going one way or the other in producing the statistics of administrative records and also disseminating those statistics.
Thank you. Let me just scan the horizon. Is there any other question at this moment? Oh, yes, there is. All the way up there. So thank you to our microphone man, who is turning quickly into a marathon man.
Thank you very much. I'm Sheila Mdenda from Zambia. I just want to understand a little bit about the institutional setup of the agencies where we are collecting the administrative data. Are we doing it through focal persons, or is there a unit that we're dealing with?
Thank you for that question. So let's perhaps just take, we had 3 questions and somebody wants to react to Bill's statement. Let's use the traditional speaking order here.
Okay, let me just quickly react to Bill's statement and I'll do so by interpreting what the gentleman from the fund said when he posed his question, because I think he was focusing on the use of administrative data in general, not the use of administrative data specifically for SDG monitoring. And I think it's a general feature that, given all the good things to be said about administrative data, it looks disappointing how much we use them in general. Whatever merit your argument may have in the context of SDGs, and that can perhaps be discussed, I think the point still stands because it applies to all other kinds of SDGs, all other kinds of administrative data. Then, as regards Jennifer's question concerning weak coverage, I would say that could obviously be a real problem. In our case, I'm convinced that our coverage is 100%. You cannot live in Denmark without being caught by us, as it were. And the reason for that is obviously that you need to be registered in order to have a bank account. You cannot receive a public transfer if you don't have a bank account that the public sector can pay it into, etc., etc. It's just not possible to live without Big Brother somehow getting to know of you. So at least it's not an issue as far as we're concerned. Thanks.
Okay, it's a good thing that all the Danes love their government. Lisa, did you want to respond to some of the questions there?
Yes, we recognize what Bill mentioned earlier. So another advocacy that we are doing now, the Philippine Statistics Authority is doing now, is talking to our budget ministry. And the way our government now gives budget to government agencies is through what it calls a performance-based budget. So all government agencies are required to submit what the performance indicators. And so we are now talking to the planning ministry, the budget ministry, to include as part of major final outputs or performance indicators of government agencies generating quality administrative data. So we are in the process and of talking to the budget ministry, and they said we have to first give them clear definition of what statistics activity is, and then they are going to have line item budgets for statistics activities that the government agencies will report, very similar to what they did for climate change initiatives. So in the Philippines, climate change initiatives have very specific line item budgets, and actually government agencies are required to report on initiatives that they have. So that's where we are to ensure that administrative data generations should also be provided appropriate funding. What Jen mentioned is really a concern of the Philippines. So leaving no one behind is a challenge because we have our hard-to-reach areas. We are an archipelago, so there are still island communities that it's so difficult to reach them, especially when there are storms and you have high seas. So we have to know how to deal with this one. But we are talking to commissions. So in the Philippines, there's a National Commission for Indigenous Peoples. There's a National Commission for Muslim Filipinos. And there's a National Commission for Persons with Disability. And all local government units are required to have a database of their senior citizens, 60 years and above. So we are in the process of asking the planning ministry this time to be the lead convener with the statistics office as a technical resource person to see to it that the registers of these different commissions are appropriately done with the forms in such a way that we can use them for statistical purposes. It's a long road still, We are still starting that. And on the question from Puerto Rico, it's a combination. Some of our government agencies that release administrative data are already doing the dissemination themselves. But because the Statistics Office is also a compiler of the macroeconomic accounts and the statistics development indicators for the Planning Ministry, we do the dissemination, we package as well. On getting the administrative data, we have focal persons that are in interagency committees. These focal persons are from the different ministries, but the unit of the ministry is the one that submits the data to us. So for the Ministry of Education, data on students' enrollment, they are submitted by a particular unit of the ministry, but a focal person from the ministry attends the interagency committees. Thank you.
Okay. Ola?
Just not to repeat Lisa and Jorgen, I may add on the institutional setup. As Lisa mentioned, in any producer institution, they actually either they have a statistical unit or a statistical function within the institution, and this is mainly our main unit or function that we work with a focal point from their part and a focal point from our part according to the type of activity or sector. The other issue that we define the work and the development on admin data, as I mentioned before in my presentation, having actually a MOU, just to have a commitment between both institutions where we define the roles and we define a work plan which is evaluated on an annual basis to make sure that what has been stated within the annual work plan that has been really worked on. So this is mainly the setup that we work on, and so far it is a good setup from our perspective.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we are pretty much at the end of a very long day, so I think I will close this session by thanking first the organizers for putting it together, and then thanking, of course, my panelists here, and perhaps with a round of applause. For leading us so knowledgeably into this universe, discussing some of the clearly big advantages of strengthening administrative records in the official statistical universe, but also some of the challenges that need to be addressed. And as I said at the beginning, if we whet your appetite, there is more opportunities to think along these lines in 2 sessions tomorrow morning at 10:45 and then on Wednesday morning in the same time slot. So look out for those sessions. And then last thank you to all of you for the very attentive audience late in the day and the active participation. So thank you for making this forum what it is supposed to be, an exchange. And wish you a pleasant evening then, and see you tomorrow morning with renewed energy.